All right, buckle up, folks, because this one is, well, it's something. We're talking Gen Z. The ones basically born with a phone in their
The
hand,
digital natives, yeah,
always connected.
exactly. 98% of them own smartphones. 98. And yet, get this, there's this growing trend, this movement almost of them ditching those smart devices
For what, though?
for dumb phones, flip phones, the whole retro vibe. Seriously, the irony is just wow.
It is wild, isn't it? A generation defined by hyperconnectivity choosing to, well, disconnect. So
Yeah.
I've been digging through a stack of reports, articles, trying to figure this out.
Right. What is going on? Why this sudden love for these basic
Well,
phones?
hit the motivation. What are the struggle? That's what we're diving into.
Yeah, that's our mission for this deep dive. Why are these digital natives hitting the brakes? What happens when they actually try it? And, like, is the tech world even noticing? Good questions. But maybe first, let's just quickly nail down the basics. What is the difference between a smartphone and these feature phones or dumb phones? For anyone listening who might be a bit hazy.
Good call.
Yeah.
Because smartphone just means smart. Right.
Well, kinda. Your smartphone, your hosting, it's basically a super powerful little computer in your pocket. Think iOS, think Android.
Right. The app stores, the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. A universe of apps. Plus, you've got multi-touch screens, proper web browsing, high-res cameras, music, video, the works, and fast internet, 4G, 5G. Super customizable.
But also super demanding.
Definitely. Demanding of your attention, demanding on your wallet, demanding on the battery. High maintenance, you could say.
Okay, so that's the high maintenance level. What about the other one? The dumb phones.
Right, the feature phone or basic phone. It's the anti-smartphone. Core job, calls and texts. Simple stuff.
Back to basics.
Totally. It runs on a much simpler operating system, often specific to the phone maker. You get a very simple interface, usually physical buttons. Remember T9.
Oh, yeah, T9. The thumb workout.
Exactly. Screens are smaller, often not touch. The whole point is simplicity, low cost, and seriously amazing battery life. Like days.
And they don't shatter if you look at them funny.
Generally, yeah, much more durable. So, just to recap the big differences. OS complexity, app availability, internet capability, screen type, input method, primary function, battery price, customization, they're worlds apart.
Worlds apart. So you've got the pocket supercomputer versus the reliable old Nokia you could drop down the stairs.
Pretty much. One does everything, the other just calls and texts mainly.
Okay, so given Gen Z are these duck-hucky digital natives surrounded by this amazing tech, why the backtrack? Why opt for the simpler model?
Well, you gotta understand their context. Smartphones aren't new and shiny to them. They're just normal, like completely ubiquitous.
The air they breathe, digitally speaking.
Exactly. The stats are pretty staggering. 95% of U.S. teens have one. Globally, for Gen Z, it's that 98% figure you mentioned. They've been swimming in this digital ocean since they were kids.
Right. But that constant swimming, it takes a toll, doesn't it? All that screen time.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking, what, average U.S. adult around 7 hours a day? Gen Z is close behind, maybe 6.5 hours. And a huge chunk of that, over 4 hours, is online via their phone.
4 hours just on the phone online. Wow.
And they check them constantly. One study said adults check about 58 times a day. Another found teens check a median of 51 times.
50 times. That's like every few minutes they're awake.
Pretty much. And it even bleeds into school time. Some studies show teens spending like 1.5 to 2 hours on their phones during school. Another suggested some are up to 6.5 hours.
In school, how is that even possible? Are they just zoned out?
It paints a picture of this always-on culture, this constant pressure. But here's the kicker.
They know it's too much.
They know. Over half worry about the time they spend on phones or social media. Around 40% admit they think their smartphone time is excessive. About a quarter say the same for social media specifically.
Huh. So they're not just blindly scrolling. They're actually aware of it.
And they're trying to do something about it. Roughly 39% have tried to cut back on social media, about 36% on overall phone use.
That's actually quite helpful. A self-aware generation trying to pull back from the brink.
And they get the downsides. Over half think constant device use harms their mental and physical health. Over half have fantasized about life without social media.
Fantasize, that's a strong word. Like dreaming of escape.
And get this, 72% believe their mental health would improve if apps were just less addictive by design.
Wow. Okay, so they see the strings, they know how the platforms are designed to hook them.
They do. It connects to this whole idea of a dusho, a digital health epidemic. People like Jonathan Haidt point to around 2010 when smartphones really took off as a turning point, a shift from play-based childhoods to phone-based childhoods.
That's a profound shift. And the consequences are pretty grim, right?
Yeah, we're seeing links to reduced real-world social interaction, obviously fragmented attention spans.
My attention span feels shredded some days.
Right. Sleep deprivation is a big one. And worrying rises in anxiety, depression, loneliness, even self-harm among young people. That whole compare and despair thing on social media is brutal.
Seeing everyone's perfect highlight reel.
Yeah,
Yeah, that can mess with your head.
for sure. And you see lawsuits now against platforms like TikTok and Meta directly related to these mental health concerns. It's
Yeah.
becoming a major societal issue.
So escaping that pressure cooker makes sense. And you mentioned this fits into a broader retro trend.
The urge on this new retro trend. It's not just phones. Think vinyl records, cassette tapes, Polaroid cameras, Y2K fashion making a comeback.
Right, the early 2000s are back,
Ah,
butterfly clips and all.
exactly. And the flip phone fits perfectly into that aesthetic. But it's deeper than just looks. It taps into this nostalgia for a perceived simpler time, a time before the constant bombardment of notifications and social media performance.
A time with less pressure, maybe.
Yeah.
More focus.
That seems to be the feeling. It's a reflection on the complexity of modern digital life, a longing for something more tangible, more focused, less overwhelming.
So the dumb phone is like a symbol,
Yeah,
a pushback against the digital chaos.
I think so. It's not necessarily anti-technology across the board. It's more about a critical look at how we use technology and actively searching for a healthier balance. It's a response to that feeling of addiction, the stress, the way our attention gets sliced and diced.
Okay, so the big picture is digital overload. Let's zoom in on the specific motivations for these simpler phones. You mentioned mental health.
Yeah, psychological well-being is huge. For many, the feature phone feels like a safe haven. By removing the constant access to social media, you remove that anxiety engine, that endless comparison cycle.
No more chasing likes,
Yeah.
no more compare and despair. Just quiet.
Pretty much. Less exposure to potentially harmful content, less engagement with algorithms designed to keep you hooked. Users genuinely report feeling less anxious after making the switch.
And maybe less lonely, ironically, if you're pushed towards real people.
That's a key point. Social media promises connection, but can often increase feelings of isolation. Feature phones sort of nudge you back towards face-to-face interaction. It's all part of this digital detox, goal-reducing stress, improving sleep, just feeling calmer.
Okay, mental peace. What else? Focus.
Definitely. Attention is the currency of the modern age, right? And smartphones are attention thieves with their constant pings and buzzes.
Tell me about it. Phantom vibrations are real.
Totally. Feature phones with minimal or zero notifications just cut through that noise. People talk about the relief of not being constantly interrupted.
Breaking the addiction cycle.
Yeah.
That endless scroll.
Exactly. Those addictive digital elements pull to refresh, infinite feeds, they fuel things like doom scrolling and that compulsive checking habit. Feature phones, especially ones without browsers, just don't offer that same hit. They break the loop.
So you actually get your brain back.
Users report exactly that. Improved focus, longer attention spans. They can actually read a book or concentrate on work without that mental itch, that monkey mind jumping around.
And more time, presumably, if you're not scrolling for hours.
Absolutely. More time, more energy for other things, increased productivity, more engagement with hobbies or offline activities.
Makes sense. It also feels like it fits with that whole minimalism trend.
It really does.
Yes.
Puko, minimalism and intentional living. It's about simplifying, reducing digital clutter, making technology serve you, not the other way around.
Using tech purposefully, not habitually.
Precisely. It encourages a slower pace, more focus on the present moment, more opportunities for real life to happen.
And then there's the nostalgia factor we touched on, the Y2K vibes.
Yeah, nostalgia. The aesthetic is definitely part of the appeal, especially with flip phones. Look at Nokia re-releasing the 3310 or those Barbie flip phones.
Oh, the Barbie phone, peak nostalgia.
But it's more than just looks.
Yeah.
It evokes feelings associated with a time perceived as less stressful, less connected, maybe a bit more innocent. Before the constant pressure of being online 24/7, embracing the retro design is like trying to recapture a bit of that calmer feeling.
Even if they didn't actually live through it the first time, it's the idea of it.
Exactly. And lastly, there are some practical points too, though maybe secondary. Affordability is one. These phones are way cheaper.
Like $20 sometimes, compared to $1,000 plus brands.
Right. Lower data costs, much better battery life, often more durable, good for certain jobs or outdoor stuff. And some parents see them as good training wheels for kids. Basic communication without the whole internet can of worms.
Okay, so lots of reasons to switch. But what's the reality? What's life actually like after you ditch the smartphone? What are people saying online, like on Reddit?
It's definitely a mixed bag based on those discussions. On the plus side, people talk a lot about feeling more present, living in the moment.
Noticing the world around them instead of just the screen.
Yeah, appreciating their surroundings, having a quieter mind, feeling more comfortable with just being, not constantly needing stimulation. One person said they felt like they were truly living, not glued to a glass square.
That's powerful. What else?
Improved focus, definitely. Being able to read for longer stretches, concentrate on tasks, finding they suddenly have loads more free time. Better sleep is common, and less physical strain, eye strain, neck pain.
The dreaded tech neck.
Gone. And reduced stress and anxiety come up again and again. Fewer notifications, less social media pressure. And interestingly, some feel their communication actually improves.
Improves? How?
They're more responsive to actual calls or texts, maybe more willing to engage in person because they aren't distracted by their phone. Breaking that constant checking habit is a big one too. So yeah, a lot of reported happiness linked to less anxiety and more focus.
Okay, sounds pretty good. But there has to be a downside, right? It can't all be Zen gardens and mindfulness.
Oh, absolutely not. The transition is tough. First off, there's often initial boredom, like real boredom, and withdrawal symptoms. If you're used to constant pings and updates, the quiet can be jarring, even uncomfortable.
The brain craving its dopamine hit.
Pretty much. And then come the practical nightmares. Missing features is the big one. Navigation, huge pain point. No Google Maps, no Waze. Driving, cycling, just finding your way around unfamiliar places becomes a real challenge.
Back to printing out MapQuest directions. Or asking people.
Yes, asking people happens. Banking is another massive hurdle. No mobile banking apps means trouble with transfers, checking balances, even security verification sometimes.
Right. Two-factor authentication often relies on an app.
Exactly. Communication apps, no WhatsApp, no signal that can cut you off from friends, family, work groups who rely on them.
Social isolation almost.
It can feel like it. Then there's no music streaming, no ride-sharing apps, no easy way to show digital tickets. Camera quality is usually basic. Typing on T9, well, it takes patience.
Patience I probably don't have anymore.
And social friction. Can't scan QR codes easily, might miss event details shared via app, get seen as out of touch for not being on certain platforms. Plus, sometimes the phones themselves can be buggy, slow, keyboards malfunction, especially some iOS devices.
And finding the perfect dumb phone is hard too, right? It's either too basic or trying too hard to be smart.
That's a common frustration. Finding that balance between pure minimalism and practical necessity is tough. So yeah, there's a definite adaptation period, boredom, withdrawal, inconvenience. Getting through that low point seems crucial.
Okay, so navigating daily life sounds complicated. How do people bridge that gap? How do you manage things like maps and banking without the apps?
It requires workarounds, lots of them. For navigation, like we said, dedicated GPS devices like Garmin's are making a comeback for some.
Dusting off the old tech.
Yep. Or using traditional maps, planning routes meticulously beforehand. Some feature phones have very basic GPS, like on iOS or the Lite phone, but it's not like Google Maps. Asking for directions happens. And the backup smartphone or tablet is common kept just for maps.
The minimalist compromise.
Okay, what about banking? That's trickier. Using the web versions of banks on a computer is key. Choosing banks that still have good web interfaces or offer SMS or email verification instead of just app-based authentication.
Yeah, so you might actually have to switch banks to use a dumb phone.
Potentially, yeah. Or, again, keeping that smartphone specifically for banking apps. Using SMS alerts helps keep track. And, actually going to ATMs or branches more often. Very retro.
Truly. And communication, staying in touch via WhatsApp.
That's a tough one. You either choose the device that might support it, like some iOS phones, knowing it could be unreliable.
Or those simplified Android phones, maybe.
Right. Things like the Seat S22 Flip or Xiaomi Chin series run Android, so they can run those apps, but that slightly defeats the pure detox purpose for some. Or you use web desktop versions when you're at a computer. Or you just accept the limitation. Stick to calls and SMS and potentially miss out on group stuff.
It sounds like the system itself pushes back against simplicity. Modern life is increasingly built around the smartphone.
That's it, exactly. It's not just inconvenience, it's systemic obstacles. Which leads, again, to that dual phone strategy being so popular. Feature phone for daily calls, smartphone hiding in a drawer for the essentials.
A pragmatic, if slightly less pure, approach. So given these challenges, how is the market actually responding? Is there real money in dumb phones?
Well, it's still a small slice of the pie compared to smartphones, obviously. Feature phones are maybe only around 2% of the US market share. But that demand, especially from younger generations looking for that digital detox or minimalist option, means it's surprisingly resilient.
Not dying out completely.
Not at all. Global smartphone sales keep climbing, sure, but feature phones have a steady foothold. Forecasts are mixed. Some see slight growth, maybe up to 5%. Others see it staying stable or slightly declining globally. But the market value is estimated somewhere between, say, $860 million dollars and maybe over $2 billion dollars recently. There's definitely potential there.
Okay, so it's a niche, but a significant one. Who are the main companies playing in this space?
H&D Global, the Nokia guys, are probably the biggest player by value. Definitely a huge global presence. They're masters of leveraging that Nokia nostalgia, the brand recognition, the reputation for durability.
The indestructible 3310 legend lives on.
It really does. And they've reported strong sales growth in feature phones. They've got everything from super basic models up to iOS devices.
Literally for their bottom line. Who else?
Then you've got the dedicated minimalist brands. Lightphone is a big name. They focus on that high-end, design-conscious digital detox market.
The fancy dumb phones.
Pretty much. E-ink screens, very limited tools, deliberately no social media or browser on the Lightphone 2. They did well with crowdfunding. Their new Lightphone 3 is interesting, adding a camera, NFC, better screen, but at a much higher price point. Shows the evolution, maybe.
People wanting slightly more function, but still minimal.
Seems like it. Punked is another one in that premium design-focused space. Very minimalist, emphasis on security with signal integration via an app called Pigeon.
And iOS, sort of in between OS.
Right, iOS technologies. Their goal was to bridge the gap, put basic apps like WhatsApp, Maps, YouTube on cheaper hardware. It powers phones from Nokia, Alcatel, TCL. But they've had bumps with app support, consistency, and performance.
So promising idea, tricky execution sometimes.
Yeah. And there are others. TCL does budget feature phones. Shox, Sonim, and Kyocera make super rugged ones. Doro focuses on seniors. CA has those rugged Android flips we mentioned. Unihertz makes tiny Androids. Mudita is exploring EEC and low radiation. Minimal Phone has an e-ink with a keyboard coming. It's a varied landscape.
It really is. A split between the cheap, nostalgic Nokias and these premium designer detox devices.
Exactly. It reflects the different motivations behind the trend. And you see even basic phones adding things like 4G, Wi-Fi hotspots now, basic GPS. The definition is blurring a bit.
So the market is trying to find that sweet spot. Less distracting, but still functional enough for 2024.
That seems to be the ongoing experiment. How much smart do you need in your dumb phone? The demand is clearly there for devices that help you disconnect, but maybe not completely.
Okay, summing it all up then.
Sure.
This Gen Z interest in feature phones, is it just a fad, a quick retro moment, or something more lasting?
I lean towards it being more than just a fleeting trend. It feels like it comes from a deeper place, a real reflection on what digital life is doing to us. The driver's mental health focus, wanting real experiences, are powerful.
And the user experiences seem to back that up, mostly positive feelings once they adjust.
Right, that increased presence, the calmer mind, the reclaimed time, those are compelling benefits. But we can't gloss over the challenges.
The practical headaches, yeah. Living in a world designed for smartphones when you don't have one.
It's a real barrier. The lack of essential apps for things like navigation or banking is a significant hurdle in today's society. It forces compromises, like the dual device strategy or very careful phone selection.
So feature phones probably won't take over the world again.
Unlikely. It'll probably remain a niche market. But the motivations behind the trend, that reflection on tech's role in our lives, valuing digital well-being, seeking intentionality that could have a much bigger impact.
Like, even if we stick with smartphones, we might start demanding features that help us disconnect more or use them differently.
Exactly. Zura's choices could signal a broader shift towards healthier, more conscious relationships with technology overall. We might see more software designed to reduce distraction, promote focus. The core issue isn't really dumb versus smart. It's about reclaiming control over our time, our attention, our well-being.
reclaiming control. That's a powerful thought.
Hmm.
So we've seen Gen Z grappling with this, trying to find a balance. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Hmm.
What parts of your own digital life, listening right now, might actually benefit from a little bit of that digital detox, whether you change your phone or not. Something to chew on. This has been fascinating.
Definitely food for thought. The quest for balance continues.